But they have it.
The opening day is the 20th April. So by the end of June, they're actually like playing April Springs, and then they have summer springs and some fall and fall year long. So those are very good weekends.
Well, I'll get it in. Yeah, I just know.
You contract
No, I just
Aaron, because it's just the regular. Right, so Dollar General was one in that was the January, and the December 20th was so Dollar General was when I talked to you and we said we'd go out. Because, right, the manager email was not sure. Oh, okay, was that? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, that, you want this? Yeah, okay. Yes. Not just my
I call the meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Cook? Ms. Falco? Here. Mr. Haney?
Here.
Ms. Hassler? Here. Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Kalinsky?
Here.
Mr. Stout?
Here.
Mrs. Stout? Here.
Thanks. I'd like to make a note for the record that an executive session was held on February 8th regarding personnel matters. Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes from January 8th, 2024? So you're looking for a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Communications.
As some of you in the room already know, the municipal authority met with council at council's prior meeting on the 8th of January, and then met separately at another municipal authority meeting this evening. None stayed because of the presence of some members of council. So as secretary of the municipal authority and as attendees can vouch, the municipal authority has voted to approve a resolution which supports Borough of Topton and Borough Council Ordinance 05-2023 to increase commercial and industrial rates.
I think everybody was pretty much there by the end of their meeting, right? So you guys all heard. Do we want to vote on that now?
We adopted the ordinance.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so now it's just
That's
become
just-
official on both
okay.
sides.
Dr. Lottis, here to discuss the property maintenance and quality of life ordinance 01-2023.
Right. And I just want to say to start with, after coming to meetings over the last couple of years, I really appreciate you all, how much you do with such little resources. This has to do with ordinance number 1/2023, as Ethan was saying, and I checked with our solicitor how to approach this, and she said it would be a request for repeal of the amendment to require the clearing of a path on a grass plot adjacent to a street in the absence of a sidewalk. Do you need
Anybody else?
anything else from me, or?
I mean, if you'd like to speak on it for a moment, you're more than welcome.
I guess just referring back to the February minutes where I had it read into, under hearing of visitors, I was really concerned about the liability, and I checked with my insurance company, and they said that, because grass when it's wet or icy is slippery, as all of us fallen know. And they said I could be seen as negligent, and the borough, through the ordinance, could be found at fault for forcing a resident to provide a non-safe walkway on the grass.
Okay, and I understand that came from an employee of an insurance
Sure.
company. We don't know what background in law that employee might have had. I mean, it's worth taking into consideration for what it's worth, and that a resident has expressed a concern, as has a homeowner's insurer, but just realizing that we don't know what background in Pennsylvania law that individual
Sure.
might have had.
Does anyone have thoughts?
Could point out that snow is also slippery as well as wet grass, so
Sure.
you have a liability there also.
Well, I can salt and sand my sidewalk.
And as a homeowner that also does have a yard down the side, we would be required to clear a path. My homeowner's insurance, after I heard Christine say that she had contacted her homeowner's insurance just to see what their thoughts were. I also contacted my homeowner's insurance, and they said, no, that is such a liability. That's negligent, it's slick, how grass gets when it's wet, and then you have that little bit of snow on it. So I have been going against the ordinance as a member of council. I will admit it in public forum that I did not clean my grass, with the two snows.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think it was a good fix for the topic that was at hand at the time either, but, anybody else?
I just wanna, for the record, let the public know that, and this goes back from when we discussed this last year, that according to public records, there are 783 properties in Topton. 73 at the time of the properties in Topton did not have sidewalks, of which 4 were borough properties. Now, the borough has since put a sidewalk in on Weiss Street, so that's one less borough-owned property that doesn't have a sidewalk. So we're talking about 69 properties in our town don't have sidewalks. And we have ordinances that really requested everyone put sidewalks in when the streets were improved. And I have a whole list. There was one ordinance, ordinance number 205, where all property owners were responsible for construction of sidewalks. And I don't have a date for that because I didn't have time to look that up.
Right.
That was put in, so really, we haven't been enforcing ordinances that we've had on the books. And when I brought this up, because it's a safety issue, which is what brought it up the other year, the safety issue being that we don't have sidewalks for our mailmen to walk on and for resident citizens to be safe when they're walking, that we were gonna approach it, just as a refresher to the minutes from back when we discussed this, as we repaired sidewalks and repaved streets, we would address each street at that time.
That was one concept, that was never solidified, that was the way we were moving forward.
Right, so we didn't want to enforce our current ordinance, which is that everyone should have had a sidewalk put on their house, and I came up with some options of things we could talk about that nobody wanted to approach. One of those was when you sell your house, then it can be addressed, that way it's not a financial burden. That was the primary thing we talked about. And the other thing was, well, maybe we could set a date, like out in the future 10 years, and see if people could maybe work towards getting that done. But like you said, we never really came up with, it was my understanding that we were gonna address it as we went through and paved every street and then did sidewalks and curbs when they had to be refurbished. That's how we were
Well,
gonna
like you said,
approach it.
we talked about several different concepts of how it might possibly be addressed, but I don't think it was ever set in stone, and nothing was voted upon, so
Yeah.
those were just conversations that we were having. Right now, though, we're talking about people shoveling pathways on their grass, not whether or not they're gonna put in sidewalks.
Right.
I disagree with shoveling grass. The sidewalks are prepared surface. They can accept the chemical treatments. It's flat and can be walked on. You shovel grass, you can't treat it correctly.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be anybody's guess if it's flat.
And you have one little divot and somebody can just go, and that's it, there.
So then we have an unfair ordinance, if we're expecting, the balance of those 69 people are not compliant with ordinances we have. So the reason I brought it up is because I wanted to know if we wanted to write a policy about it, because we're not really going
I
by ordinances, and we never did that, so.
I don't, not now.
I mean,
I think we have far too many other things.
I mean, a
on our
policy
plate.
saying we're not gonna go after people that don't have, but, sidewalks, like, 'cause
Well, we
we
don't
can.
do that now.
No, but we actually have an ordinance that we could do that, so they are not gonna sleep easy knowing that any time you could change your mind.
I don't know, I mean, you haven't had sidewalks at your house, are you worried that we're coming to get you?
I am not, because when I was going to purchase 24 years ago, I came to the borough because I was trying to decide between a home here and a home in Kutztown, and I asked, on a corner, it's gonna cost thousands to put in sidewalks, is that something that you have an ordinance about, is it something down the road? And they said, no, it's not, so here I am, happy and talking.
And understand that to enforce an ordinance to put in sidewalks, that requires notice, which under the borough code could happen at any time anyway, even without an ordinance. The borough code gives you power to require a sidewalk in the street right of way.
Right.
I don't agree with picking and choosing which ordinances get to be enforced. If I have a sidewalk, so I don't have to shovel it if we're not gonna enforce all the ordinances?
No, well, right now, we're talking about repealing the aspect of shoveling a pathway through your front lawn, so that wouldn't, that wouldn't be a part of the ordinance.
So you have 70 people that don't have to shovel, and the rest of town does?
Yeah, it's not fair, but, it's thousands of dollars, everybody's taxed to the extreme, so, what would be the better solution, Brian?
I don't know, I know you didn't meet your own ordinances the past snowstorm.
I understand that.
I'm not saying you, I'm saying.
No, I know what you mean, yeah, I know what you mean. But that's what you know what I'm saying, like, it's not a perfect situation, but nobody really has a perfect solution for it.
I agree, but then on the other hand, I'm gonna stir some hornets up, but, you know, it's on the books that you're supposed to have sidewalks and it's not being enforced. So is that gonna be taken off the books or is it gonna stay on the books?
If we
We
repeal
can
it,
talk
it
about
would come
that,
off.
yeah, I mean,
You know,
But as far as the ordinance go, the problem is that there's several ordinances, because if you remember, Pat pulled a bunch of them, like in her block, it was not required that they had sidewalk, it was only required that they had curb,
Who said-
which is where Christine
Who
was.
said that?
Pat, she had the
Pat-
ordinances.
Pat Miller, my
She
neighbor.
came in,
She came in and
she
presented
came
all the
in and got the
ordinances.
ordinances from Stacy.
Well, the one ordinance she didn't mention, well, actually.
But that's what I'm saying, that's why you have conflicting ordinances.
No, we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 ordinances that give individual streets that have to have sidewalks and be done. And then there's one blanket one that says everyone has to be conformed. She didn't bring up that number. She didn't bring up number 205, because that one specifically says that the property owners are responsible for grading and construction and repair of sidewalks and curbs within the entire town. And that was conveniently left out of her list of ordinances, but these all deal with as the town was developed. We had, as streets went in, and these go over many, many decades, so we have the ordinances.
I
We're
think,
Just an
not
unfair
talking
ordinance.
about adding sidewalks right now, we're talking about, are we gonna repeal the grass or not? So we just need to make a decision.
But then we can penalize people that have sidewalks that don't shovel their sidewalks, but we can't penalize someone for,
well, I mean,
Well,
that's,
you know what you bought. If you bought a house with a sidewalk, you're required to clear it. If you bought a house that didn't, you weren't.
well,
That's how it's been for decades.
well, it just
This
wasn't
is not a new
enforced.
thing.
I'm just saying, it's a problem, it's our fault that the problem's here, it's the borough's fault, because we didn't follow
You're
through
right.
with our ordinances.
You're
It's not
absolutely
their fault, it's not the property owner's
no,
fault.
you're absolutely right.
But we have a safety issue we have to address one way or another, and it's not safe either way, is what
I
I'm
can
saying.
tell you, I know for at least 60 years that my property that goes down Barclay Street has never been shoveled. 60 years it has never been shoveled.
But the Kisslers were forced to put a brand new
They're
sidewalk.
forced to put in a brand new
So-
sidewalk, and that I don't understand.
Yeah, so they
Because
were
theirs
forced, so
was-
we have property owners that are right across the street from you on a lot
But
that
they
didn't
already
have.
had a sidewalk.
Well, they
All
have
right,
a brick.
but tonight's issue is not righting all the
It's
wrongs of the
about-
past.
Right, I'm just saying.
It's
that-
about this one
shoveling
single issue.
Grass,
So,
yeah.
I think tonight's issue is also about safety, and the only reason sidewalks need to be shoveled is snow and ice is not safe for the elderly, for children, for maybe anybody to be walking on. So we didn't like shoveling grass. You can rip out the grass, you can put crushed stone, you can have dirt, you do whatever you want, but it's safety to have a cleared pathway,
And people are walking in the streets,
which
which
is not
is
safe.
now our liability.
Yeah, but they do it even where there is sidewalk. So,
I think so, then this is everybody's case to make, you know,
I think we should just do a roll call.
I think we
yeah,
should talk.
that's fine.
You know, a roll call for, and it would be just a simple ordinance repealing, ordinance number, 1-2023.
Who, yep, you can go ahead, Terry, please.
Has there been a motion has there been a motion?
So I'll need a motion to,
I'll make a motion.
Dan's gonna make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Right, and the motion is authorizing, the preparation of an ordinance to repeal ordinance 1-2023.
And would someone have to abstain if they did not currently have a sidewalk?
No, that's not that wouldn't be a reason for abstention.
Okay.
Wouldn't be a conflict of interest.
No, I mean, there's no financial benefit that would be a conflict of interest.
Ms. Cook?
I do not wanna repeal it, no.
Ms. Falcone?
No,
Mr. Polinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Stout?
Yes.
Mrs. Stout?
Yes.
And then do I ask Mr. Lee still, and Ms. Hassler, even though they made the motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Haney? And Ms. Hassler.
Yes.
So that is 5-2.
Okay, so I'll I'll prepare an advertised ordinance for next month then.
Thank you. Thank you. So moving on.
Steve Klein, our emergency operations officer, or coordinator, sorry, needs to comply with Berks County's requirements to update our operations plan every other year at least. Before council is a confidential suggestion of what the required changes would be, and primarily it's changes of staffing and elected officials.
Is he asking for us to approve this? Or-
It has to be part of the minutes, so either, even if you note for the record, the changes have been submitted
Okay,
for this and accepted, however council would choose. It doesn't have to be an official motion,
okay.
but it does have to exist in the minutes that would be approved next.
All right, so, does anybody have any questions?
What am I looking at?
The one that says confidential,
I mean, generally, I think these guys know what they're talking about well more than I do, so.
I
Whatever.
guess my only question would be, they only have the noticeable mail, anyway, answer my own question. Guess what's not in the burn, never mind.
Yeah, it's just updating, that's it.
so if anyone doesn't feel confident to keep it confidential in your home or office, please feel free to give it to us prior to exiting the meeting this evening, and we will recycle it confidentially. Thank you.
All right, so I'll note for the minutes that they were submitted and accepted.
Accepted.
Yeah, I mean, we're just,
So the next item under communications is the YMCA Summer Park Program for 2024. Prior to simply signing the agreement for this year, because we've had discussions, just wanted to make council aware that I'm about to sign the approved line item that is part of the park activities in the amount of $6,500. Did not know, because of the discussions in the past, if council wanted to specifically authorize me to sign this prior to signing.
What is the 6,500 for exactly?
It's for the subsidizing the fees for the children who participate in the program. So it really, it cuts down on the cost of the program
that's
to
why they're
the
60
people
instead
who.
of 130.
So our taxpayers are subsidizing some of the children that are taking this class, is that correct?
In essence, yes.
So this, is
So
there,
the cost of the whole program is lower for anyone who participates.
is there an income, like you have to qualify, low income?
No, it's across the board, they apply it to the program cost and then figure out how much is left that they have to cover. And those are the rates that they charge, whether you're a borough resident or not borough resident, you get two different charges, whether you're a borough resident or not a borough resident.
I noticed that the Topton people are paying less, so we're subsidizing all the people or just the Topton people?
The whole program essentially then means everyone gets subsidized, borough and non-borough.
So our taxpayers are subsidizing all people's children that are in this program,
Correct.
and it's regardless of their income. So if someone could afford to pay more, they don't have to because our taxpayers, is that, I just want to make sure I understand.
Kind
That's
of,
my
it's more like
understanding.
hiring the YMCA to put on the camp here.
Right, I mean, they're using our grounds, which we're donating for their use to, so they have a place to conduct it, but now we're not only doing that, we're also paying the cost to subsidize all the people that have children.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Could I get a brief summary of what the problems were last year?
The summary was from the overall supervisor that some staff were not as organized with their curriculum Therefore, some of the children were given more free time than normal previous years of programs. And when they had that extra free time, they were a little bit naughty in the bathrooms, making it just muddy, and muddy in the park, and muddy in the pavilion. And a little bit of more trash around the playground equipment.
Yes, things like that. He did say it would be better.
Corrected.
Yeah, the things would be corrected. Staff would have more training.
And maybe different staff would be assigned to our park.
I do note in their submission that Topton Borough on the backside shall provide a well-maintained and safe playground area. And I'm wondering if they should have a repeat of similar problems if they're throwing trash around or whatever problems they're creating. Do we need to have borough personnel in there cleaning up before the start of the next day, or shouldn't they have to do that?
They do it at the end of each day.
Okay.
That's their responsibility.
Because it says we're supposed to, I just wondered.
No, I think-
And they need free
Notify us
from
when there's a
defect.
problem.
Yeah, I think they're saying that
No
it's
broken
our
equipment,
location,
no
yeah.
Yeah, it's
unsafe.
It's our
playgrounds,
safe park.
Yeah.
broken items, things like that.
So they need to notify us when there's a problem. If we had that bee infestation in the area near where they were, and they never let us know about that. And
That was the volleyball court and that
Yeah,
happens.
so is there anything that, in this that allows them to let us know when there's problems? I mean,
Not in this, but it's in our
Let's say,
communications
We
with
have
them.
to give
We
them
do
a contact
contact,
person
yeah.
for anything.
Yeah.
And I
There's
go
the
over,
maintenance, yeah.
There's no process or policy that they have to follow. It's just
I go over every day at
communications.
1 o'clock, well, prior to 1 o'clock, before they leave, to see if there were any problems, anything they need to report. And they know that the borough office is open for them to go down, you know.
Do you need a motion to authorize signature?
We've
Would
already
you
put
like-
it in the budget.
It's in the budget, I
So, yeah.
just wanted to give you the option, so it's fine. Then thank you.
just for the record, if you could, Terry, I'd like to say, I think this is a wonderful program. I do not feel that the taxpayers should be subsidizing, the people that are in this program, at least not with some type of, financial hardship on behalf of the parent.
They do have, in addition to the rates, they propose charging additional discounts for families unable to afford the registration fee.
I'm okay with that for Topton only.
That doesn't say Topton.
I think that would actually be up to the Y. to-
Yeah, that's
it's their
their
That's their.
policy and
That's fair.
charter and all of that.
All right, next up.
Next up, for the public's review, the Topton Volunteer Fire Company #1 submitted their 2023 year-end response report, and it's available for anyone's review in the office during normal business hours.
450 calls last year. They went on.
Record high.
Record high. It's crazy.
Thank you,
Yeah,
fire
thank you.
company. We do have a communication again this year from the Brandywine Community Library. They'd like to do a fundraiser again in August to celebrate the tortoise's birthday. So before you, I believe, council, you have a request that explains pretty much what they did last year. They probably will tweak it with any
Sure.
issues that they might have had with last year's, but last year's was pretty successful. If there are any questions that you have at this point, because August is a far time away, please submit them any way that you can to us, and we'll get them over to the library and get you answers.
But we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
To approve it
Yeah.
now, so they can start planning.
I'll make that motion.
Go ahead.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Any opposed?
The next item is another request regarding a fundraiser again. Mr. Mark Miller wants to utilize the Weiss Street parking lot for fundraising of selling of food to benefit the Lehigh Valley organ donor recipients. So you do have,
To be
A little
clear
bit of
on this one,
information.
I spoke to Mark, he's not actually selling the sandwiches. If you have your donor card checked off, he'll just give you the sandwich. He's gonna accept donations towards,
sorry.
kidney disease research and such, and transplants, if people want to. But he's really just trying to spread awareness. He was recently, went through it himself.
And he's an excellent cook, so it'll be good.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just gonna be him, his plan is just him and his family standing out there trying to spread awareness, and they'll accept donations if they get some.
Thank you for the clarification.
I'd like to make a motion to allow Mark to have his fundraiser.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Is there a date?
Does he
April
have-
6th,
April 6th.
10 to 3.
Best pulled pork sandwich around.
Okay.
Council received a request to appoint another planning commissioner. Mary Ellen Monahan has expressed interest by also being a member of their committee to do the joint comprehensive plan. Leo, do you want to speak to it, or?
I mean, Mary Ellen's been regular visitor to our meetings, and she kind of knows what's going on. And we do have a vacancy. It definitely makes sense to have her involved. And also, she will be helping us out with the joint plan. So yeah, exactly. We do recommend it.
I guess I'm looking for a motion to approve that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright.
Congratulations.
Alright, Mr. Mayor.
I don't really have anything. It's been a slow winter.
It's not always a bad thing.
No, I'm not gonna complain about it.
Just put a snow emergency.
Yeah, I mean.
Emergency
That's the
powers.
big news, is no emergency here.
Let's hope you're wrong on that one.
Yeah, complete agreement with that.
So we'll move on to the police report.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everybody. Sergeant Fleetwood Police. I'm gonna go over just a quick recap of our January incidents and information for Topton. In January, we patrolled 1,049 miles. We had 117 hours dedicated to patrol. We had 18 hours of investigative work, 18 investigations with 8 hours of investigative work. We didn't have a single traffic accident that we investigated in Topton. 12 traffic citations were issued. 4 criminal summary non-traffic citations were issued. We had 24 hours of traffic checks, 2 hours of paperwork, 32 vehicle stops, 7 hours dedicated to follow-up on criminal cases or other incidents, 2 hours of court time. As far as the citation breakdown, it was 1 stop sign, 5 speeding, 2 inspection violations, 2 school zone speeding violations, 1 obedience to traffic control device violation, and 1 registration violation. On January 30th, we responded to a borough resident's call for a neighbor dispute over parking. 2 adults were cited for disorderly conduct. Personnel, we have a new officer, part-time officer, who's still in the training program. He actually has 35 years experience. He's a retired Muhlenberg detective. He's actually working patrol for us, mostly 2nd and 3rd shift timeframes. Equipment, one of our new 2023 Ford Explorers has been fixed. It has been having a lot of electrical issues. Non-Ford related, it's mostly the aftermarket stuff related to the emergency equipment. So, I don't know what all the problems were, but it was probably in the shop 4 different times for different electrical issues. We're in the process of scheduling a coffee with a cop event, and also to include a fraud seminar for citizens, because we get a ton of fraud cases, phone scams, all kinds of fraud stuff affects a lot of people. Some people lose 10, 20, 30, 50, $100,000 just by saying the wrong things in a phone call. So Does anyone have any questions or concerns they would like me to take back? Or anything?
The non-vehicle or criminal,
Citations?
yes,
I don't have any specific detail, but generally that could be anything from a summary harassment case to a disorderly conduct to, a summary retail theft. It's a citation, so basically it's a fine in most cases. And it's not a criminal case, it's not a misdemeanor or felony, so it's usually just like a ticket, but it's a fine, but on a criminal nature versus a traffic citation.
thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or concerns they want me to take back? Okay, it's good to see no accidents in January. Let's hope after the snow tomorrow, it continues that way. So, ready for nice weather. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hearing of visitors, is anybody?
I have, my wife and I walk a lot in town, and, this goes back into October, trying to get street lights fixed. Is there any way street lights can get, the one at Smith and Hawes has been out since who knows how long. It's super dark there, and that's a major intersection where Decker trucks going down. I did get the one at St. Croix and, Smith Street. That one got fixed, but now I have 3 tickets out, and suppose the other 2 tickets are still supposedly pending. There's one on Home Street, there's one on Pump Street, and I don't know about the rest of the town because we don't walk the rest of the town, but the areas we walk, I know, and I think there's one on Franklin Street too.
So I mean, obviously we don't do that, but I think we might be able to back up and.
Is there any way to speed the process up?
Yeah, I don't know, you know what I mean, we may be able to submit a ticket ourselves, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know if it'll carry more weight than anything else.
I mean, every week I call and they basically tell me it's still ticketed.
Smith and Haas, you got it anywhere else that you can think of?
There's one by the, across from the post office.
I just saw that.
Okay.
And there's one by the Borough Maintenance Building on Pump Street. So coming right up, almost a little bit down from where the school comes, where they exit the school. There's one there. And I'm pretty sure there's one on Franklin Street. And
Sometimes they need more than just a bulb.
yeah, I know. They told me that
Yeah.
it could be the sensor, it could be a lot of things.
Like I said, I think the only.
Once you have a ticket,
Yeah.
they said the tickets are still open and
Yeah.
they're not
I
closed
think the
yet.
only thing that we could probably do is submit a ticket ourselves and then see
Yeah,
if that.
This has been going on since November. And they got the one done on Smith and Kroll Street, but the one on Smith and Hawes, for some reason,
Sure.
it's been a couple months and they haven't addressed it. And it's very dark there when you go through there
Yeah.
at Smith and Hawes.
All right, thank you.
I have a problem with ordinances. You either enforce them all or you enforce none of them.
I hear you.
I can say about probably 10 years ago, I did go to the district justice because the Borough Council at the time wasn't enforcing ordinances and couldn't meet their own ordinances. Only the Borough Council can enforce ordinances.
Yeah.
The public, I cannot enforce an ordinance on the borough and have the borough be held accountable. That's what I was told by the district justice.
Yeah.
I just don't agree. You either take them off the books. If you have them on the books, you gotta enforce them. And you gotta be fair to everybody in town. And I don't think you're being fair to everybody in town the way it's set up now.
Does the council want a policy written on this to address this? Think about it, we can talk about it in the future, I just wanted to bring it up.
I mean, the big problem with enforcing ordinances is we just don't have them in power to. That's what it comes down to, we just don't.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty simple. Like, I mean, we have to take it to the point of putting liens on people's properties for something that, you know, was put on the books long before they even bought it, you know. And I technically, that's what we should be doing, but.
And we'd have to go through all ordinances from the beginning, and right now, there's too many other precedents.
Yeah.
I don't disagree, but.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but it's. What else?
on the topic of lights, there's a light pole by the water building that illuminates the walk from where we have to park to here. It has not been lit the last 2 or 3 times, and it also,
2 or 3 meetings, you mean?
that I've been
Months?
to, yeah, so it's not,
Because we did improve,
right, we have not seen that light on. So I put my flashlight today.
okay, I
And
apologize
that
for that.
also had, there's also a flag there, and there's a light on that pole to illuminate the flag. If you're gonna have a flag, it needs to be illuminated at night or taken down, so.
Thank you.
You need to have that on.
I wanted to bring this up early. I noticed that since the pool is closed, there's a lot of people that have put pools in their yards. I believe the rule is you need to have a fence, not just a pool. And you've got at least 8 pools right now. There's no fencing, there's nothing. And there's one that I go by that it is such a drowning hazard for not only kids, but animals, anything, because the way the pool is situated, it would be very easy to get into, but they have the top so loose that the top is down into the pool. So even when a cover is tight, you still have the chance of it caving in, but if it's already caving in and it has ice on top, et cetera, that, you know, we're talking about the life, and you know how kids are. I mean, they get curious, you know, they see ice, we can play with that. So I do have concerns about that.
Are these above ground or in ground?
Above.
Above, they're not required to have a fence.
As the sides are 36 inches or higher, you're not required to have a fence. Yeah.
That's terrible.
They're just required to put the ladder up, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's specifically, but.
Right, yeah, it has to be made not accessible.
Yeah, so I say don't have a ladder. That, the ladder's up.
Yeah, they're supposed to like fold up or fold down or something.
Well, I can't say that they all have their ladders up, but,
Yeah,
that's.
they're not required to have a fence.
Yeah.
Cause the one pool, there's like a bank right there, and if you fall off the bank, you'd be right in the pool.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay. Non-issue, but definitely a
Yeah.
non-issue.
Anyone else? Monica?
I saw special events, there's no committee for that anymore,
It got folded into, community relations.
oh, okay. Do you have any dates for anything set yet?
I do, yeah.
I just had people asking, so I'm just asking.
We'll release something official. I was just pinning down the last couple of things, so we'll put it out on the borough website and then Facebook and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anyone else? Okay. Then Joan, you're up.
Alright, first item is ordinance number, amending ordinance number 2021-8, and that is for amending the property maintenance ordinance to, add to the definition of, premises, private property, because the International Property Maintenance Code has a definition for premises, and our ordinance has a definition for private property, and for purposes of clarity, we wanted premises to include private property. It also corrects a typo in the 2021 ordinance to define property maintenance code as the International Property Maintenance Code 2018 ordinance, and make sure that it was the correct addition. Those are the changes that were made. It was advertised in the Reading Eagle on February 2nd, 2024 as authorized. And I'll need a motion to adopt, and I'll need an ordinance number.
Ordinance number will be 1-2024.
Okay. So motion to adopt ordinance number 1-2024.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
And second ordinance should be, number 2-2024, which is an amendment to the traffic and parking ordinance with the definition of large vehicles, and that is a vehicle in excess gross weight of 26,000 pounds, and prohibiting any type of motorized or non-motorized large vehicle having a registered gross weight in excess of 26,000 pounds from parking on any street or alley in the borough, with the exception of loading or unloading. And also, motor vehicles without current license plates or current state inspections are not to be parked and stored on a commercial zone lot unless in an enclosed garage, and not storing boats and prohibiting storing boats and trailers on a street. Are there any questions about this amendment? Okay, in that case, I'll need a motion to adopt ordinance number 2-2024.
Section 5, penalty, clothing, fine of $250.
Floating fine of $250. I believe that is per violation, and it states also that fines and ordinance may be amended by resolution of Borough Council. And it's a term that has been in this ordinance.
So are we looking for a motion to adopt ordinance 2-2024?
I'll make a motion.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Please don't touch it.
The next item you received today, which is a resolution authorizing the borough to enter into the Eastern Berks Joint Comprehensive Plan, with the Berks County Planning Commission taking the lead. Joint comprehensive planning has been a priority of Berks County and of the County Planning Commission, and it's a way to ensure coordinated land use planning through the development of a regional joint comprehensive plan. There have been meetings. Ethan has participated in those meetings. One of the issues was cost, because it is an expensive proposition. There's been agreement to cap the costs for the borough because of the limited land size and population as compared to the rest of the region, as $6,000. And it would be along with Rockland and District Township. It's questionable whether Long Swamp Water would not participate. But again, this would be for the development of a multi-municipal comprehensive plan. The multi-municipal plans address land use and future land use patterns, designated growth areas, designated preservation areas. It's a protection against exclusionary zoning challenges because it provides for each type of land use. Otherwise, each municipality would have to provide for every legitimate type of land use. So it is a protection against a future challenge to exclusionary zoning for not allowing a certain type of land use or providing for it. So are there any questions, or Ethan, do you have anything further from the meetings in which you've participated?
I think our discussions have been pretty thorough on this topic. Does anybody have any?
I just have one question. How can I be assured that Topton will get equal weight in this plan as far as addressing our priorities and our goals?
I'll say for my part, I think that our planning commission is where that comes in. that they really are pretty hungry to get into this project and be representatives of us there. Last time this was put together, that didn't happen, you know what I mean?
The last plan was horrible.
Yeah, now, and that didn't happen, and on top of that, Berks County kind of checked out on that one and outsourced it to somebody else who put some boilerplate stuff on paper for us, and we paid for it.
So our planning commission is our representative in
I-
this process.
Well, yeah, let me, so, what we have is a planning committee, which is pretty much made up of members of the planning commission, member of the public. Mary Ellen is now gonna be on the planning commission, so right now it's 4 members of the planning commission will be representing Topton. And it is a committee made up of our representatives, Rockland's representatives, and districts. And we're gonna go through an 18-month process where we cover sections of the plan every month. And what we'll do is we'll focus on that, and it's our responsibility as the committee to basically bring Topton's goals, objectives, needs into that plan. And then once that plan draft is completed, it's gonna come to Borough Council. So it's not gonna just get railroaded through and say, all right, accept it. It will come to you guys, and you're gonna have to review it as well before you adopt it. So there are multiple levels of security that we're gonna get what we need out of it. And yes, the planning commission members that are gonna be on it, we've been on the commission almost 10 years now since the last version has been adopted, so we kinda know where the gaps are, what we need, and it is our goal to make sure those are addressed and we get the best shake out of it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Leo, I just wanted to thank you for your work on this. I have concerns about the cost of the $6,000 we're committing to.
Mhm.
What are the chances we're gonna get some of this costs covered by a grant? That I saw your email that were.
So the PA, the MAP grant program, that's, I think it's the governor's office for, I can't remember the full name of it, but it's through DCD, so DCD is gonna administer the grant. The county will, per this resolution, will create the grant application, which is very similar to a PA small water or an H2O grant. Basically the same process. It's gonna go to that department. At best, and what I've been hearing from the folks from the county, that there is a good portion of money in the budget right now to fund it, and if you get in at this first deadline, which I think is March 8th, there's a good chance to get half of that cost removed. Up to, let's say, up to
$3,000. So we're taking a
$3,000.
chance, because like 3's kind of been my limit, and I have some concerns because Long Swamp is not in this.
Right.
What I really like about this plan is we're trying to preserve some of our resources in District and Rockland, which is good because it's kind of restricting some of the growth there.
Right.
Moving forward with the plans.
Right.
We're not really benefiting to the degree that we would have been when Long Swamp was part of this plan 20 years ago, before they dropped out, because all of our headwaters, all the water that the Topton has coming into our house is from the springs that are located in Long Swamp. Without them in the plan, I have concerns that they're gonna be overdeveloped because they're not in it. And then it might actually end up affecting us indirectly with
Sure.
water quality. So I'm in favor of it to the tune of 3,000. If you think that we will really get a grant to cover some of that.
It's my hope that that's the case. According to the rules of the grant application, we have to commit to the $6,000.
Okay.
Rockland and District both recognize the benefit of having us there because they benefit, because they don't have to have all the more intensive land uses. That's their core, so they can kind of preserve, sort of like what Long Swamp would want to do if they were on board with it, same philosophy. But that's why they're willing to pony up half of what our original cost was going to be.
Well, I was involved with this 20-some years ago when it first came out, and
Yeah.
I understand why Long Swamp dropped out.
Sure.
Because they were taking on the brunt of all the expense to develop their township, to take on all the development growth. At the time, we had 1,500 units that were going to be built on multiple farms that were going to be developed by a very big developer in Berks County, and that never came to fruition.
Right.
But they were going to be responsible for putting in traffic controls and heavy streets to cover all the traffic, and anyway, so, all right, thank you.
If I might, I don't see anything in here, maybe I'm missing it, where goodness knows, some unforeseen circumstance where we would need to either drop out or kick in more money. I see that we're gonna start with 6,000, I don't see where that's a total.
Well, it says we're going to commit municipal resources up to $6,000, that's a cap of $6,000.
Yeah, which means they can't go.
It's the $35,000 of the total project cost broken down into how it's split between the 3 municipalities.
Right, and that total cost will not change. Anything that goes
Anything
over
that goes above
that,
it, there,
the county eats it. So it's a not to exceed proposal from the county. So it will not cost us more than $6,000, period. You know, that's our worst case scenario.
And Dan, to your point as well, I think it's up to us too, to be involved in this process, you know, when we talked about our financial burdens and how this was not an easy decision for us, Rockland and District, you know, obviously, as much as we think about them, they think about us, you know what I mean? So they weren't really aware of our situation, and through those conversations, they were able to see like, well, okay, but to make this work, maybe we can take on more of the brunt, you know? So it is about working together and making our needs known.
And they're taking on more of the benefit of us being in the plan, because then they don't have to address commercial growth, business.
Right,
growth,
but you know, there is benefit to
industrial.
us in the immediate sense. You know, it may sound silly, but all our projects live and die by grants.
Yeah.
And if we can't update, think about this $35,000 bill, that's just our bill. Because we need this plan one way or another, and that's what it costs to put one of these together. When they do it, they split it between all of us. You know, personally, I know I was pretty up in arms about this when it first came out, but I was more worried about the product than the cost, you know? And I think that if we all work together and put the time in, we'll get something that's worthwhile out of it.
Right, and to add one last thing is regular follow-up. You know, once this plan is adopted, we review it every year, and we say we have a list of objectives and goals. We can bring it to Borough Council, we can review that and say, what's the plan for this year? It says by this year we want to get something done.
Right.
There wasn't that kind of proactivity in the past. So I think the intent is for us to keep reviewing it, to keep that committee going makes a lot of sense as well. So
Yeah.
we can kind of, you know, even if it's like an annual checkup, but that's really the value of these plans is, you know, we're not gonna go anywhere if we put a list of things together and then we just don't address them, or we don't have time, or we don't have the money or the ability. So like Ethan said, this is also a vehicle for us to find funding to get some of our projects. That's the first step in getting something done for us. So that's where, you know,
Right,
the rubber's gonna hit the road.
Right, because both the county planning commission and DCED strongly believe in regional and multi-municipal planning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how will you decide what to plan for as far as what Topton wants? Will you be surveying all the residents?
There will be a survey when this kicks off. The school district will be administering the survey, because it is, that's the main thing, is it is the school district's area. So they'll administer the survey, the questions will be written. You know, I'm sure the committee's gonna review the survey questions, we'll get that survey in. I personally have suggested that we bring the community in front end. You know, I know it's tough to get people into a meeting to talk about boring things like planning and stuff like that. But to bring members from the community in over these 18 months to see what they have to say. Have the historical groups come in, have other, you know, the authority's gonna come in and talk about things at our meetings to explain what the needs are, get it on paper. And then from there, we'll come up with the committee will come up with the goals and objectives. We can communicate that to Borough Council to make sure that that makes sense on your end. We'll keep that process going, that circular process going throughout the duration of this plan. That way, as many people, you know, that we can get heard. And at the end of this, we're not coming out with something that people are like, oh, I didn't even know we wanted to have that, or that's not something we had in mind. You know, it will be a unanimous decision by our members to say, okay, you know, this is how we interpret what we want to get done. You know, and then, you know, we'll keep the communications open with everybody.
But there won't be the school district is not going to mail out a survey to all the residents, or they will do that?
Yeah, that's the issue. There will be a mail-out survey for everybody. You know, the questions haven't been determined yet, but, you know, we'll be active in determining what those questions will be. And so that's at the front end of the planning process. We get that done, then we'll kind of build on from there.
Thank you.
Need a motion for approval?
Yes.
I'll make that one.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And the status report that I have on the meeting with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters Local 773 is, the next session will be held on February 23rd.
It looked at them, talk about them.
Okay? Do you need an executive session?
No, maybe. We're gonna take an executive session at the end, just for a couple minutes.
Okay, all right, that's fine, to discuss labor relations. All right, that's all I have unless there's any questions.
Anybody got anything? All right, thank you, John. Stacy?
Since it's going to be a long meeting, I want to make mine short. The Public Works roof on the Public Works building on Keller Street, 44 West, sustained some damage by wind on the 18th of January, and it's being addressed, and it was already on schedule for replacement, so that'll be later in the agenda under the engineer's report and the property reports. Tasso sidewalks are being attended to by staff, and it's taking a lot of ice melt and salt to do all of the sidewalks, but hopefully people are still appreciating them during a snowstorm or ice storm throughout the park. We met with our representatives from Barry Eiston and Associates to continue on the sidewalk installation and improvements along Oak Alley, and also discuss the dismantling of the pool and doing that project in the spring. Besides that, those were the most important things that happened in the last month. Besides, our auditors did come on site, and they are working on the 2022 and the 2023 financial statements. Before you is an engagement letter from those auditors, Zelenovsky Axelrod LLC. Because we expended over $750,000 of federal funds during the fiscal year, January 1 to December 31, 2023, we need to have what is known as a single audit by federal regulation. The auditors that we currently have for the financial statements that take in everything that we do have offered to do this, that is below the bidding threshold. The amount, I believe, is on page 7, page 6. And along with the 2023, they will do it for us. So what I need is authorization to move forward with the engagement letter.
For a motion?
Correct.
That's to spend the $15,250 and the $7,500.
The 7,500 has not been authorized. You have already authorized the prior amount.
I'll make a motion to authorize.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Jamal?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Stacy. So we'll move on to committee reports. Ms. Cook?
Source water protection plan. I don't know, Shirley, if you've heard back anything on the signs.
I did. The gentleman indicated that he needed the DEP designation of a watershed, so we'll be having that. I found it in my email and in the file, so we'll send that over to him tomorrow. So PennDOT needed the justification for the signs, apparently. Bob, one of the guys from my office, has worked with him a lot, so he got a fast response.
Great. So that should hopefully get things moving. Yeah, you're not gonna commit to that.
I do not commit PennDOT to anything. I'm on cycle 13 on one review. I don't promise anything.
And they've changed their whole procedure with the signs anyway from what they did before, so. hopefully that's moving forward, and MS4, where Terry does a wonderful job with creating postings for the internet, social media. For MS4 Mondays, we'll tip some pointers and reminders to people to keep the water runoff clean and minimize it. And I'll stop with that.
Thank you, Kim.
I wanted to say that was an awesome tip sheet, by the way. Thank you.
Stockholm.
So for policy, I have nothing to report. And for personnel, we had a wonderful applicant for the position of our sewer plant operator. That's the good news. The bad news is that he's used to working at a higher pay scale than what Topton offers. I think that, and Stacy, I'd like to ask you your thoughts on this. I'd like to offer this applicant the job at what we could afford to pay him. Do you know, I don't know if you have that in front of you, do you know what the pay range we're currently at?
So the advertisement, which can be public record, public knowledge, is $18 to $26 range for this position.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know that he's gonna take it, but this applicant was actually traveling pretty far to get to his job, an hour each way. He works in an area that's a much more affluent area where income is substantially higher. I mean, we have nothing to lose by offering him the job. Everybody, whether he takes it or not, you know, I don't know if it would be, he did apply for the job knowing that was the range, right? I mean, he did.
No, that was prior to the range being available on Indeed. This was from our Facebook post that I posted on the website.
That range that you had talked to him about.
Not until after he had already applied.
Okay. What are your thoughts on offering him a position at a rate? Not that we're gonna get him, but I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask, does it?
Doesn't hurt to ask. We have posted it on Indeed so the public can see it as of last Friday with.
Everybody agreed that he was a good candidate?
Yep, and now we have 15 more applicants after putting it on Indeed, some of whom have certifications.
Okay. So do you think we should wait to move through some of them, or do you think he's someone we should, because we're not gonna change our pay level?
Well, I mean,
especially if we can interview quickly.
Well, that's my concern, is we've got Alex who's swamped with work, he's the only guy there, and this, I think this is a matter that needs to be fast-tracked to get somebody in.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to offer this guy a position, and start interviewing the other guys and see.
If he's looking for $30 an hour,
Yeah.
we can't.
Yeah, we can't give him that, but we can at least offer him a job and what we can afford, and if he takes it, that'd be wonderful, and if not, we have 15 other applicants we can continue to interview. That would be my approach, just to not lose him, because perhaps he'd wanna work for less just to be closer to home. I don't know, I'm just saying, this is.
you can never tell what's gonna be the swing factor.
There's people that work for a lot less, and their motivation.
Did he make any indication of salary that he'd be looking for?
Well,
nobody let us know confidentially what he made at his current position.
Okay.
On an hourly basis.
It's beyond what we pay, but he also doesn't have health insurance like we have and some other things that we have, so, you know, I think it's definitely something we should consider.
Yeah, I don't know how much there is to lose by offering the position.
Well, it's just, it's
Yeah,
good.
as long as we stay where.
Yeah, I mean, we can, you know.
That's where I was getting at.
Sure.
I mean-
Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna, we can't, so.
So then if that's the case, where would the council like to set the offer price for him?
He's qualified for both water and sewer.
He is not currently, his license has lapsed for water.
Okay.
But he also has a CDL, which was for a tanker, because they used to haul their own sludge at his job. So he got that for what he currently does. He doesn't need that here. I mean, he needs a CDL for maybe
It's helpful.
You know, for other things, and he worked about 60-40 with public works and sewer, so he worked between, does have experience in other areas, there's some things he didn't do a lot of, But he,
I think it's hit,
Normally we set the rate in executive, don't we?
we usually do, yeah. We can do that, we can.
I guess until he's hired, then, once he's hired, we have to disclose at the rate, is that correct, how we do it, Stacy, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
Yes, prior to an offer letter going out.
Since we're gonna have an executive session on labor relations anyway, we can also make that personnel executive session, come out and if there's official action to be taken, take it.
Okay.
Okay, well, I would make a motion that we offer him that job if I need to make a motion for that.
Why don't we wait?
We'll
till
talk
after-
about it in
after-
executive, and then
Okay.
if we need to, we can come out and approve.
Well, the only other business I had to discuss was that, if time allows, we have the executive session, which we've already discussed. And, that would be something that would be no, would be any action taken after that unless we're gonna make a motion based on our conversation. So that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Dan, anything?
No report.
Okay. Then Kathy.
Okay, I would like to request a motion to approve the bills and transfers as presented.
Make that motion.
A second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Alright. Next up, I'll keep it brief. We met with, some of the community organizations and such about events for the upcoming year, and we've got some good things in the works. I guess I'll just keep you guys posted on that. There's not too much to talk about tonight.
Ethan?
Yes.
I had something that actually relates to your,
Sure.
committee, if I may speak. I have some wonderful news for Topton. Just find my notes on it. So, we are in the service area for Kutztown Rotary Organization. And I've been involved with them for many years. I've been a volunteer for 14 years to fundraise for some of the things that the Rotary Club does locally and nationally and internationally. And speaking with some of the leaders of the Rotary organization in Kutztown, they want to partner with Topton to provide funding for a community project as part of their 100-year anniversary celebration. So they have what's called a legacy program, and in 2026 it'll be their 100-year anniversary, and they want to do some things to help Topton. So they would like to contribute financially to something that we would like them to help us with. At this point, it depends on the availability of funds, but they may be talking about a $5,000 contribution to us for something. And they want to start talking about this so that they can get prepared for 2026 to do something.
Well, that's good. That coincides with our 150th.
Exactly, so it does coincide with that, so possibly it could go towards funding the event, or more importantly, rather than spending that and let the money gone, they could help with the construction of something that would be of benefit to the community of Topton. They may want to put a plaque up to, recognize that they've helped contribute.
Yeah, we'll talk.
So it's something that we could talk about, and I think that maybe we could all get some ideas together on what they could do to help us. But this is a wonderful extension of assistance from them, and I just wanted to let you know. And
Yeah, that's good.
if there's a committee that they need to speak with regarding this, they want to know who they can.
They can email me directly. I'm collecting everybody for the
Very good.
150th and
So
such.
I'll let them get in touch with you
Sure,
on this.
sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Eric.
I'm not as short-winded as you.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Okay. Since last meeting, I have not heard back from either Andy or Mike about the football field. So, I left them an ultimatum and said, if I don't hear from you by tonight, if you don't show up, I think we should nix it and move our T-ball field back across the creek where it was, using our guys and the equipment that was bought for the T-ball field back over. That's
Yeah,
okay
I
with you guys?
agree, you know, I don't wanna just keep it hanging for months and months and months.
We're getting close to baseball season.
I think, you know, too, like we're, you know, with the pool, we're not talking about that it's never gonna become a wood football field in the future, but if you're not, I don't wanna hold
Well,
things
that
up.
way we can designate that
Yeah.
area for something else down. the
Yeah,
road.
it can be whatever, it's just grass and ground at that point, or well, dirt and ground.
So I guess if it's all right with you guys, let Stacy know when she can get the guys available to move that over there. I'd like to be part of setting it up. Cause it can't be exactly where the location was before because of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So, and dimension wise, personally, I don't think the field that we put in was the right size for a T-ball field.
What was
It's actually for a little league field.
Okay.
Dimensions, and the T-ball field should have been made smaller.
Okay. The infield or the whole?
The infield.
Oh, okay, wow. What do they use?
They use 60-foot bases.
Oh, okay.
T-ball uses 45.
Oh, okay.
So, we were always that little bit further.
Right, yeah.
You know, so that's with them, if it's okay with you guys, I just wanted to bring that up, and I'd like to get something moving.
Yeah,
with that.
I agree.
I think their intentions are well, but they just don't have the time to commit to, putting something together
I
here.
think they have too much going right now, buying
Yes.
dice and
Yes.
ex-Philly players coming up to sign autographs.
Well, cause even if they order the stuff now, it won't be here on time.
And again, we're not talking about immediately turning it into, your idea is gone, we're turning it into this the next day, you know what I mean, we're just not, their concept was.
Anything on hold anymore.
Exactly, their concept was to leave that there, so that they could use it for wiffle ball, and they would build a new one where we wanted the T-ball field, but.
It's not ideal, but it is kind of gonna be a commitment, I'm sure.
Yeah,
We gotta-
but no,
We gotta move forward and
Yeah, I
get
agree.
that operational again.
I agree.
You can, good amount of time.
I've given them a long time. Last week, Charlie, Brian, Ethan, Stacy, Scott and I met down at the pool down here to discuss how we're gonna do things. And I think we have a good plan. Hopefully it works out the way we want it to, and when we take that bottom of the pool open, we don't see China. It's a very good chance we won't have a whole lot of work to do to fill anything in. As far as big crevices, that's kind of the consensus. But that project will hopefully get started this spring. Starting with the parking lot area, starting with breaking the whole bottom of the pool up first to see if what problems there are, disconnect any pipes and everything, and start getting a parking lot out there in that grass area. We are gonna be leaving a sidewalk going up along the edge of the building here to connect all the way around. Basically, if you come in the walking path, you just continue up in front, behind the building here to the walking path over here. It's a real nice connection point. It'll give us more grass area. We are gonna hold off on the parking out here, tearing up this hill, getting rid of this macadam until we have a parking lot in place. Didn't make sense to take all the parking away before we had parking. So, as soon as Charlie and Brian get us the basic guidelines that we need to do as far as stormwater and thing, not.
Erosion
ENS.
and sedimentation, yeah.
ENS, which is, we wanna do it right, not affect the creek at all, so. That's where we are with the pool. It's moving along slowly, but we're getting close. Logging of the watershed property, we have one proposal that we got. I talked with the second forester today. He has some questions. He wants to know if we have all the spring, if there's a designated area that they have to stay out of for the springs. that's actually in writing somewhere. I said, I have no idea if we have something like that.
Are you talking about a wellhead protection zone, or the springs or
The
buffer around
springs
the
themselves, so that we
themselves?
don't damage.
We have the source water protection plan that outlined all of them exactly, and all of those, that, we have that data, I don't know that we have anything written down that says they have to stay out of this area versus that area.
Cause he was kinda confused by it.
I guess it would just be, I mean, whatever the,
When they,
best practices
That's
say.
they're gonna mark the trees for logging.
Yes.
They shouldn't mark trees that are right next to the springs such that you would have to disturb the springs to take the trees. But if they could do controlled logging near, which they can, they can't disturb the springs themselves.
But this would be best practices in their industry,
Yes.
right? I mean, they would generally know this. I think he's probably asking if we have any additional.
Well, they have to submit a plan to the county.
Sure.
EMS plan, so, he was wondering if we had anything that they could put on their plan.
Oh.
They had and then they had another question, do we wanna do all this at one time, or break it into a 3 or 4 year plan?
I think that would probably be dependent upon what they have in store.
He said there is a lot of large poplar, and he would recommend taking as much of that out as possible, because it is mature. He also thinks we can do some pine thinning. There are other trees, and I asked him if he could, when he was marking trees, if we decide to go with them, down along the road, log it a little heavier, simply because we have electric lines that get ruined all the time down through there by trees on wires.
Sure.
Maybe 60 foot back from the road, go a little heavier than the rest of the program. He also asked, this guy was full of questions.
Sure. Yes.
He asked if we wanted to do any herbicide measures, because there's some areas in there that are prohibiting us having nice trees, where they would come in and do a spray to get rid of that, to allow for generation.
We do have a lot of non-native stuff growing up there.
So that would be an area that the water protection requirements will come in.
Right.
My guess is that nothing that's effective as herbicide can be used in the spring area.
Well, I kinda said the same thing to him, I said it's a watershed, I don't.
But that would be additional anyway,
Right.
Roundup used to be approved for along waterways.
Yeah, it isn't anymore, because I'm not allowed to spray it over
Doctors
here.
used to smoke, I mean,
Sorry. I would suggest not using herbicides in the spring area. If you were well down gradient from the springs, you might think about it, but I wouldn't do it anywhere in that area by default. I would make sure that it's not.
That's what I kinda told him, I wasn't a big fan of it. I get where he's coming from, but it's our drinking water.
Yeah.
Well, it might be better for managing the stand of trees, but that's actually your secondary
The
concern.
two are overlapping there,
Your primary concern is managing and keeping safe the water supply area, so that's gotta take precedence, and that I would put in the contract. I would put words to that effect in the contract.
Absolutely, yeah.
That goes to the loggers, that the number one responsibility is to protect the water sources of the borough.
And again, that source water protection plan is public
Yes.
data anyway.
Well,
so
it should be attached.
But yeah, we can make that a part of everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Eric,
Yes.
do you know when we're gonna find out the value of what they're taking out?
Well, what we'll have to do is we'll have to get a contract, and then they come in and mark the trees
That's the $1,500, whatever. fee
from him,
is. Right.
from that specific logger. Stacy, did you put this on?
It
There
just
you
came in
go.
the mail.
It seems like we have another person that's interested in bidding. I'll contact them tomorrow. The logger that was mentioning that I talked to today needs that information to put a bid in. He didn't give me his terms or anything yet, so I'm assuming it's gonna come something like we got from him. I didn't get anything, that's what I got from him, and I contacted him when I got it, and, he didn't even have questions. The only thing is, he said our trees aren't real big, we don't have a lot of large trees, which I disagree with, in there.
Yeah, Scott was not impressed when he met with him, but.
Did they walk the area?
Well, Scott took them around showed them the boundaries on the four-wheeler,
Okay,
and they looked as they went.
but they didn't, this guy didn't walk through there at all.
It's 180 acres.
Yeah, no, that's what, the upfront money is for when he gets boots on the ground and puts that time and effort into it, you know, he's looking.
There isn't any, none of them are gonna tell us what it's worth until we have a contract with them, because that's a lot of time of walking that property and marking everything. It's a big job. So, back to asking him about a multi-year thing, how do you feel about that? Do you wanna do?
Does it depend on how much money the value of the trees are? And then-
Yeah, I guess, you know, I mean, that's what I'd be looking at is, you know, if he thinks if you're looking at something that can fund projects for 5 years, 3 to 5 years, you know what I mean, that might be better than just taking a lump sum up front and trying to get it all done at once and having a surplus. I don't know, I mean, at some point, it's also.
It helps expand if you do it for future.
Yeah.
It'll help if we do break it down into different years. So that the next council, somewhere down the line.
Can keep it kind of
Keep it going.
Yeah, I think I'd probably lean more towards that, but
I don't know how it will affect him bidding it or writing up a proposal.
Yeah.
You know, if we say, let's break it down, or give me a multi-year and a single year.
Yeah,
if
maybe
he'll
ask
do
him
it that
for
way.
both.
Yeah.
The only thing is the end goal, one of the main end goals for the money is to fund the well. My only concern is if we break it down, will we have enough
That's true.
to fund the well? Cause that's like their number one priority with doing this.
Well, he told me if he does a hard cutting, you know, everything at one shot, they're looking at 50 years before any logging would take place at Topton. And that the trees there wouldn't be enough value there for another 50 years. So we're looking at the money that we'll get out of this is gonna affect.
That's generational.
Now.
Yeah.
You know, but they're not gonna do it for a while to get money out of it. But he did say there definitely should be some logging done in there. That's an old stand, completely different than that proposal I got from the first guy. First guy almost sounded like, yeah, I really don't wanna do this, but he wrote something up, so. But anyhow, I'll contact.
Yeah, see, I guess see if you can put together both that
Schultz
makes a difference there
and this new company. So,
We'll have to see if they're on the list though.
on the list of foresters. Oh, okay, gotcha. So that takes care of the logging for now. The public's works roof. Charlie and Stacy and I sat down and looked at the one quote that we got today to repair the roofs. Thought we were gonna need CPR to bring Charlie back by the number. And I'm gonna let you, you have all that information over there?
Well, I do know it. So we had reached out to 4 co-starring companies, and in the end, only one presented us with a proposal. They did come out 3 times. The last time was after the storm hit. So they presented us with, there are 2 roofs that need to be replaced, and then the canopy. The canopy actually has structural damage, so their proposal for it to replace it, remove the existing, replace it was $80,000. The shingle roof area, which is not very big, was $19,000. And then for the membrane roof that was blown, that was rolled up, where you had insurance of about $20,000, 18 to 20,000 from the insurance company as their first start. They gave us two options. To build it back in place was 105, to put it up to code was 151. So those are much above what we had anticipated, and from our first conversations, even accounting for inflation. We've done a little bit of research, and we've reached out to a few other companies just to do some truth in it, but thinking about talking today, instead of staying on that path, in our conversation today, the suggestion is, let's just go out to bid. We'll get it. You've given up, we have a proposal, we'll stay within it to put it back out to bid. And I'll get that out to bid. My goal is to get it out to bid so that you have the proposal at your next meeting. It doesn't have to be out for 30 days. We say 30 days, but it's really 20 something. So we'll get it advertised and out. We've got it pretty much ready. And I need your authorization to do that, but that would be the EPDM roof. I do suggest we talk to some locals, get quotes to finish out that shingle roof area. They will be different. Likely be different contractors. It's different operations, but that came in at that 18,000 is less than the bid minimum of 20. So
my feeling when we were going over this is they knew they were probably the only bidders and jacked it up.
Well, technically by the CoStarz thing, they're supposed to give it to us at that price. That's the sticky point for me. So I have no way of doing verification.
And we had to go through CoStarz before we could put it out to bid like we are, correct?
No, we don't have to touch CoStarz to put it out to bid. They do not have to be.
CoStarz is just usually a better price.
Yes. Well, and
it's already pre-bid or
yeah,
bidded.
it's a fixed price. It's supposed to be a fixed price. It gets rid of the rigmarole with the bidding. Unfortunately, that didn't work in this case. So it's usually a lot smoother. This is the first time I've had it fail. So that's our recommendation from it. You need a new roof. This way we can make sure we go through with that. Like I said, I think that the shingle roof portion is a separate project because it is a different type of roof. You can get a local roofer that will do that.
But that's not the important one right
That's
now.
not
The one that's
the
important is one where skid loader tires are holding that whole roof back on.
Yeah,
And it's
so
not waterproof.
that's the goal, would be
Over
to
our equipment.
have the bids for you next meeting.
What happens if we put it out to bid and everybody comes in higher than the offer that we have right now? Is that still good then? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And Stacy and I communicate about how to get some of the funding switched around to.
Yeah, I saw.
You saw that?
Yeah.
To pay for it.
Okay.
That's, if you don't have any other questions for me, that's all I have under my property.
Well, I guess we do need a motion to authorize Barry, I said, to put the job out for bid.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, Michelle.
There's not much for the account receivable report right now since the water bills just went out. Just a reminder, they are due Wednesday, February 28th. Currently, there's no payment plans, only 2 meter switch outs since last quarter, but there is a new list of 0 reads that they're looking into. And we're still waiting on the meter for DECA, which is expected in March. I'm not even gonna tell you what the outstanding number is because it's too early in the cycle. Next, we have the authorization for council president and borough manager to execute the contract for the East Barkley Street, water main, small water and sewer grant. We have to figure out how we wanna do that, since it's only about half of what we requested.
You still need to accept it if you're going to accept it, and then we have to look at whether we're gonna use that for another grant as the base point. Some of the other programs, none of them are out yet, but have a different match, and you can use potentially for a match or descale the project. So since it's half, we're actually doing a fairly long length of the road. You could do half the length, roughly. The other part that was in there, the half, we were doing mill and overlay on one lane. Removing the mill and overlay gets rid of most of that. That they didn't fund. So you may be in a fairly good spot to just do the water line. You won't get the road, you'll get trench done. So that's, my suspicion is that's what they did, largely.
But they looked at it and they said you're not getting the paving part?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's our time frame from the time we accept it or whatever till we have to use it?
It'll be in that agreement. I get that, that'll be in the grant documents, it should be somewhere.
September 30th, 2026.
Yeah.
Have to incur all costs.
Yeah. So we would have to, the latest you would wanna start construction would be spring of 26. If you were delayed for some reason.
Sure.
So we need a motion to execute the contract? I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
How much was that grant for?
$185,000.
And one other question, Michelle, how many zero reads did you have?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
I know there's a list of them, but I don't know how many.
Okay.
Things TikTok made me buy that are
What's that?
Do the guys have any idea what?
worth it. The new incense waterfall.
Stop. A meter, part, half of it, not working anymore, head or base.
Yeah.
That's usually the culprit or the entire meter.
I know one of them was 17 years old. Randy told me. That showed a no read.
Showed 0 gallons.
It didn't move from the last time.
Yeah, 0.
There was probably most definitely use, but I just didn't read the use. Yeah.
Does it round up or down? So if say there were 300 gallons used, it rounds down to 0, and if there was 600
No.
gallons?
No.
Meters don't round.
A zero read means it failed, 100% that it failed, and that's usually the head. It's the power part of it, that's usually what fails, but not all.
Something's absolutely with it. And last but not least, Stacy, Trinda, Terry, Joan and I had a meeting before, a couple hours ago, about our water and sewer invoices, the collection process, and there was just an issue that came up with when we are billing, when the landlord is the one that is paying the water bill instead of the tenant. For the most part, our process is correct. There's just a step that we are missing when that is the case, where it also has to be posted on the tenant's property, and a notice has to go out to the PA Department of Health. So we're gonna be adding that into our process. So it's not gonna change much, and apparently it's very rare that is a bill that is not paid.
Right.
So hopefully it'll rarely ever come into play, but we have to have the process in there for when it does.
Right, this is under the, Utility Service Tenant Rights Act, that's what, Michelle is referring to. And that's the scenario where the landlord's responsible for the, entire building's bill, so the tenant's, bill. And it prevents an innocent tenant from, having their, utility service turned off without the opportunity to pay and then what's called repair and deduct it from the rent. Our policies are very close to that. The policies that we have in place provide a maximum amount of due process notices and opportunities to come forward, pay the bill, enter into a payment plan. It's a process where shut off is the last possible measure and far from the first. And our procedure provides as much or more notice than the law requires.
That's it for me.
Okay.
Hometown Heroes, nothing has changed since last meeting.
Gotcha.
So, take care of that one.
Charlie?
So, with the report, I got a couple of edits. We did submit the DRBC report a couple of days early. I expect to have the chapter 94 submitted to you guys before the next meeting for your review. Review right now, Harry's reviewing it for me. We're a little late on getting the surveyors out. They tried to get out and the weather was bad, so I expect them out on the law site in short order. MS4, the reports were sent at the end of January for your review, and we'll be following up about the task items that need to be completed before June 30th. We ought to talk through the perennial stream and see if there's the next steps, including grants. Talked about the roof. Washington Street, I have cleared that, so it will be going out to bid. And you've given me clearance to do that, so that will be being bid. And Oak Alley, we met there, and they'll be finalizing those plans for bidding with Callowhill Street Con, which had been previously funded. We just didn't have great interest in it, so.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. Topton Community Ambulance Board, Monica, you got anything for us?
I had checked with Stacy, and I believe she sent everybody a communication about the, Center of Excellence in Local Government meeting at Albright College on March 14th. Just a reminder of that, if any of you would like to attend. EMS is gonna be a subject there.
The keynote speaker will speak on it.
That's all. I know you mentioned fire company calls. Last month for the ambulance, they had 226 billable calls in a month.
Wow.
That's just billable. That's not show up, assist, and
Right.
refuse, transfer or what have you. So yeah, they're busy.
Thank you to them too. Alright. Carol, anything from the preservation board?
Nope.
No? Okay. Then I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn into executive session, which when we come out, if there's any action, it will be on the pay scale of the offer. Other than that, nothing else has happened. Thank you all.
Yeah.
8:38.
Whatever time.
These guys don't see me, I don't know what I'm talking about. I just take them to
You wanna write your address?
They're still celebrating the victory last night.
Yeah. I do the same thing with my wife and my out.
Are you headed out there? You ought to take me with you. I got family out there, you know. Yeah, I've got a cousin that's on that side of town, but she's
Reach out to you as well, that way, between you with
Oh my gosh, I didn't sign
the chest on the yeah, he's
Oh, no, I know, sorry. We need to talk to them.
Honestly, that's about
Mary has
I'll have her reach out to you that way. If you reach out,
New role.
it'll get back.